All right, so let's get started. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining today's Dashboard Server 6.4 release webinar, our latest and greatest version of Dashboard Server. Let's get into the details. Before we do, for those of you who are new to Dashboard Server, I'm Bruce Cullen. I'm Director of Products here at SquaredUp, and I'm very excited to show you all the cool stuff that we have planned in this release. Now, as ever, I've had a go at summarizing all of the features in a single dashboard. And I've struggled because there's stuff that is not visible on a dashboard, stuff that's in edit modes, for example. This gives you a kind of flavor. So think integrations, but the logos that are on screen are possibly slightly misleading. There's an interesting red bar at the top as well. We'll get into that in a minute. But let me first explain the integrations aspect. So every time I run a SCOM-a-thon coffee break, or a SCOM-a-thon event, I put up a slide that looks a bit like this to set the stage or to advertise essentially our products as a company. And we have Dashboard Server as a product, and we have SquaredUp Cloud. Now, Dashboard Server, you guys, I'm sure, are all very familiar with. It's been around for over 10 years now and is based around all of the pain that you guys face with using the SCOM console natively and SCOM, transforming the life of SCOM. Whereas SquaredUp Cloud, by contrast, has loads and loads of integrations. And so it's designed effectively to solve that single pane of glass problem once and for all. I get customers that come to me and go, Bruce, that's great, but what I actually want is a single pane of glass, and I want your SCOM stuff. Is there any way we could get the best of your SCOM products alongside all those integrations? And this is something that I've been slowly unveiling the sort of solution for over the last couple of releases. In Dashboard Server 6.3, I shared the concept of tear-off tiles in Dashboard Server 6.3. So we can now share an individual tile from a Dashboard Server dashboard to embed in other tools. In the screenshot, this is our screenshot from the slide itself I presented in the webinar. You can see I embedded it in SharePoint. But as I said, coming soon, we'd also have the ability to embed those tiles into SquaredUp Cloud. So then you'd have all of the integrations for SquaredUp Cloud alongside just the bits and bobs that you cared about from SCOM. But this was only kind of like a piece of the puzzle. This is a direction from the direction of Dashboard Server into Cloud. We have customers that want this because they're looking to build new dashboards in SquaredUp Cloud where they have all of those integrations. But they want some specific bits and pieces from Dashboard Server, from all of their existing dashboards in Cloud. But we also have a bunch of customers that want to go the other direction as well. So they want in Dashboard Server just to pull in specific tiles from specific integrations they care about. I see a message along the lines of, is anyone stuck on loading streamers in the chat? Hopefully someone could confirm they can see something that isn't loading streamers. That would be helpful. I'm hoping it is just for one individual user. Let's see. All good here. All right, I'm going to carry on. Matt, I'm afraid those are issues your end. You'll have to disconnect, reconnect, and then I continue then. So, unsurprisingly, I've set this up quite nicely now. We have, in this Dashboard Server 6.4 release, been working hard on embedding tiles from Cloud into Dashboard Server. It's a sort of first-party integration where you simply will type the name of the tile you're interested in, and you'll see that tile in Dashboard Server, which explains effectively the majority of that screenshot I had. So these are bits of data from SquaredUp Cloud. I'm going to do a bit of jumping backwards and forwards between slides and demos for this, because I think, to be honest, I suspect I'll probably forget a feature if I just go through the slide like I often do and then go back to demos. So with that in mind, I'm now going to jump to my showcase dashboard for real, which is this one here. It is literally, or more or less literally, the one I screenshotted, essentially. And you'll see here that these tiles, they look really like they're Dashboard Server native tiles. They're fully interactive. You can see I'm moving my cursor over a line graph, and it's showing the counts and the date timestamps and things. I can scroll up and down the tables and things in real time, and it updates and works, which is really, really cool. Now, this is all using our native integration, which is configured from within System over here. So if I go to System and I go to Integrations, we have a new logo to complement all the existing ones, which is SquaredUp Cloud, which is here. So we have SquaredUp Cloud deployments in the US or EU region, So you just simply give it a name, select the region you want to deploy into, and then go generate an API key, which it really is as simple as going to Systems, Advanced API, and hitting Generate and copying the thing to your clipboard. I'm sure you've all got enough imagination to think about how that will look, so I'm not going to bother demonstrating that piece. What I am going to show is how you can actually get a new tile onto one of these dashboards. And for that, I'm going to need SquaredUp Cloud. So we've got a tile we're going to pick on. This is a dashboard focused around our licensing database in our database team's workspace. Let's have maybe this one, DTUs used versus total tile. So we want to use this tile here because it's a bit more interesting to look at. And DTUs total is important. So you can tell this is clearly a cloud native use case. This data is coming, I think, from Azure Monitor. If I'd have said it this tile, we'll have a look. What exactly is this doing? This is Azure Monitor metrics. This is two metrics selected on a line graph then. DTUs total and DTUs used, essentially. So I'm going to just copy and paste to make my life easier the title of that tile. I'm then going to go into my dashboard server dashboard, pop it in edit mode. Let's have a new tile on this dashboard. And we're going to go to integrations and go to SquaredUp Cloud. We're then asked to pick our provider, as we would do with any provider, essentially, any existing provider. We're then asked for the tile name. Now, I could just start typing this, DTUs something or other, DTUs total, cool, and select it from the list. I didn't actually know, in this case, if I had multiple instances of tiles with the same name. If I type the word cost, for example, I'm absolutely inundated with tiles that have the same name. You can see underneath where that is the case. The sort of secondary text here is the name of the workspace that tile appears in. So if I go back to my DTUs use case, DTUs plural, looks like I can spell it correctly, doesn't it? DTUs use/total, database team/DB licensing was the workspace name. If I then click next, we can configure a few things, but really there isn't that much that we need to do because the tile itself is here, it's already loaded. We can specify the height if we want to make it bigger and smaller. Look how it actually scales really quite nicely. Then we have other options that effectively are available in other iframe type tiles. So we have the ability to show a border. I don't know why you want this, but I'm sure someone out there has got a good reason. And we can enable scrolling if you don't want it to scale with the rest of the dashboard. Again, don't know why you'd do this. In this case, it doesn't need a scroll bar because it's pretty damn responsive cloud as far as redrawing these things. I'm going to just leave those options off. I'm not going to fiddle with the zoom. Oh, let's just paste in what's in my clipboard in the tile title. And there you go. We have our dashboard, which I can then publish. And it works as you would expect. So I can, hover over the points on the line and see what's going on. So really cool. And what that enables is effectively all of those weird and wonderful use cases that you can't do natively in Dashboard Server. So in the examples here, I've got Azure DevOps and Azure Cost, and now some bits of SQL databases, Azure SQL. We've got many a data source in here, so things like VMware are possible, SolarWinds or other common tools. We do actually have SolarWinds natively in Dashboard Server actually, but may have a different view of in cloud, and you can bring into Dashboard Server. So really cool feature that completes that single pane of glass vision, which means that whichever tool you choose to be your single pane of glass, you can get all the SCOM stuff and all the integrations in one place. Hooray, finally. That's the first feature that I really wanted to show off. Very exciting new developments. Back to slides now, so I can remember what the next feature is. All right. So the next feature is Row Perspective Editor UI. So on the left-hand side, we have what was effectively the nicest, in air quotes, way of editing a row perspective in Dashboard Server 6.3, which is JSON. Just a quick refresher on what exactly a row perspective is. So in the matrix tile, you see these little rows here. So this is detecting that this is a SQL server, and it's giving you specific bits of information that are relevant for a SQL server. And there's some ones that we effectively set out of the box. It's possible to change them, and that's where this JSON blob comes in. You may want to change this SCOM perf spark line to pick whatever user connections metric or whatever that's been selected. But doing this via JSON is pretty nasty. The other places where these row perspectives are kind of surfaced are, aside we've got the matrix tile, which is what the screenshot is of here. We have, when you're looking at VADA map, effectively you get those performance summaries. Those are all driven by row perspectives as well. And obviously on places like alerts as well, you get that row perspective show up. And the good news is, no longer have you got to edit the JSON in the UI at best, or worst, files on disk if you're looking to edit the reusable row perspectives that we use on perspective dashboards and alerts and whatnot. We have a UI for it, which is very exciting, which lets you easily add, manipulate, change those row perspectives. Back now to demo land, where I will show you what that looks like in practice. So here we have a row perspective in the matrix tile. So let me just edit this guy. On columns here, typically the default is dynamic, which is essentially we will get what we get by default from SquaredUp, which is this. But we may want custom. Now, this is where we would have seen that original JSON blob before. We can still get to the JSON blob if we want to play with JSON, we can. But now we have this lovely, nice UI. So let's say CPU utilization is the most important one. Let's just drag this one to the top, but not as important as status. Actually, status is more important. You'll see it updates in real time. Let's have health state history as an additional block, maybe. We've got a nice widescreen here today. So I can see that history over time. It was as simple as clicking and adding to add that. And you'll see that all of the options here, so health state history, options are as you would expect when you're editing a full fat tile of this nature in the tile editor. We could put just plain text in here, or an SLA gauge or something. Let's see, SLA gauge of this particular application's health, for example. I don't think it's particularly relevant, but it's probably a bad example to pick for this example, but you get the idea. It's really simple to use, to customize, to modify, that kind of thing, all entirely UI driven. And we can also obviously edit the existing tiles essentially within the matrix tile row perspective. And of course, all the full power of Moustache, anything you want is kind of available here. So if we want to see whether this is in maintenance mode, let's hide the status of the label quickly and see whether it's in maintenance mode, just to illustrate how this thing works. Again, none of these are in maintenance mode, so there's nothing to see. All of that kind of thing is possible as well. False, true, etc. for the is in maintenance mode state. So that's the first thing that's really worth sort of showing here. If I just quickly publish this dashboard and go into system, the other place where these row perspectives are surfaced are here, matrix rows, matrix row perspectives. We have all of the row perspectives that exist in Dashboard Server. We have where they are going to show up in the description, which is super useful. So these are these row perspectives that show up on dashboards. So if I were to, let's say, find an IIS computer alert, let's see if I can find one of those quickly. Let's have a look on our actionable alerts list. Almost certainly there'll be something from SQL. Let's see what we've got. Surprisingly, no, nothing from IIS. Maybe there is. Here we go. IIS application pool is unavailable. Cool. So this looks like it's matching on the Windows computer class. We have health over time essentially being showed up. This is one of those row perspectives. If I were to go back into my systems menu, system menu over here, go back to matrix rows, I'm able to modify all of these. So maybe let's edit the Windows one. So let's go here. You see a preview of the Windows row perspective. And again, that same UI, that same experience. But the difference here is any place that row perspective will show up, the changes I make here will appear. So not just for one instance of the matrix tile. So let's say I wanted to add on, I don't know, what have we got? CPU, memory, let's see, let's have disk maybe, disk free space or something. Let's add in one of these. We can search for our metric logical disk, percent free space, something like that, as represented in a bar. There you go, that's all possible. That will now show up on that row perspective. And that is done, essentially. The other thing that's worth knowing about this UI is obviously we've got edit. We've also got delete and clone. Obvious what they do, but Clone is worth kind of highlighting because often you want to fiddle with something before you make it live. So before you potentially delete an existing row perspective or change the matches statement effectively. So that is all possible too. So it sort of completes a rough edge and really makes use of that matrix tile and those row perspectives. Hopefully that's as useful to you guys as I think it will be. It was one that came from feedback effectively via support and by people asking for help with the JSON effectively. Back to slides now for the next feature, which is something you got a bit of a hint for. So this one was definitely a customer request from a number of customers. SCOM is obviously a great monitoring tool, great for monitoring all of your infrastructure and your apps. But there are times where you can't see the wood for the trees. Let's say you have a network outage. So you have a number of hosts that are essentially showing up as unhealthy because they can't be, they're not heartbeating right now because their heartbeat's not getting through because of the networking issue. Rather than the help desk being slammed by tickets and calls, if you could simply put a notification at the top of your dashboard, that would be super useful, wouldn't it? Well, the good news is that is now possible. Back into SquaredUp now, and we're going back into our system menu. In fact, we're still there, to the broadcast tab over here, where it's possible to make an announcement. Let's go with whatever outage notice. A bad thing happened. This is all Markdown, by the way. This uses our existing Markdown tile. So if you want to, anything that is possible in Markdown, if you want to paste in a picture, effectively a link to a picture, that's possible. Emojis are possible as well, which are always quite good, and links as well. The classic use case for links is essentially links to tickets, as I put in my screenshot effectively. And of course, it's all written up. So if you're not sure, as I'm not sure exactly as to what is sort of possible with Markdown, because I simply can't remember, that's all links to in that help as well. So let's have a look. What is the syntaxing for a link? This should be super, super easy. And it will be on here somewhere. Link, I was going to search links. There we go. There we go. Parentheses. Perfect. Square brackets around the thing you want to appear, and then the URL in brackets. All right, let's give that a go then. C ticket like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then link to my ticketing system, ITSM tool. ITSMtool.com. You get the idea. You get a link in there as well. So that's cool. That's worth knowing about. I could hit send, and this would then get sent to all dashboard server users. But there's another thing that's worth knowing about, which is this: end broadcast at specific time. So if I would just hit send without this, this broadcast message, you get a confirm for this, by the way, because this is going to be sent to every single dashboard server user, aside from open access ones, predicting that question. Every page I go on, this will appear until dismissed. If I provide an end date and time, then if people don't dismiss the notification at the top, then it will automatically go away after a certain period of time. So let's say I want this to disappear at a certain time, I can set that in there. But just to illustrate now, if I just browse some dashboards, it appears on every single one. There we go. So that is possible in Dashboard Server 6.4. Hopefully that will be useful. It's worth experimenting with Markdown to see what's possible. There's lots of things you could do with it. Back to slides now. That's broadcast system. Oh, I forgot one more clip to show how it would look. Fine. The next feature, this one has been requested on and off over the years. It's something you can do in the SCOM console natively, but the use case is slightly different. And that's the ability to run SCOM tasks on multiple objects. Now, there's a practical, obvious reason why this is useful, which is just fewer clicks to do something. But the reason, as I say, you can do this in the SCOM console. The slight nuance here is the use of this feature for effectively reporting. Because the results are displayed to the console, and you can copy them out as a block of text, which you can then paste into a Word doc for a status report, or to Excel for analysis, probably the more likely use case. So that is the next thing that I'm going to show. Going back to the product now, let's close some of these tabs so I land at the right place. Here we go. So we're going to go back onto my example dashboard over here, and we're going to find some objects. I can't remember if I actually put objects on this dashboard or not. No, I didn't. Let's go somewhere else then. Let's go to our one of our built-in dashboards, effectively. Let's go to Windows Server 2016. And let's pick a bunch of servers. Let's have a look at these 4 that are in the warning state. Now, when you're looking at a list of objects, effectively, on the SCOM object drill down, you will see maintenance mode, where you'll find scheduled maintenance mode that we added in 6.3. All that existing UI and UX we've effectively reused and borrowed to make this possible. You'll now see the task button is enabled. And again, the scope is pulled through, so we've just got the 4 objects selected. Now, why that's important is, 1, I haven't got to do it manually, which is cool. No control click. But 2, the list of tasks that is relevant for these objects is calculated based on this list. So you're not going to see a task that is not possible to be run against these objects. Obviously, sometimes they might fail and whatnot. We're not going to be able to predict those things. But if it's not, you're not going to see tasks that are relevant for IIS web servers on a Windows server that doesn't have them, for example. So let's just do ipconfig and go run task so you can see how it works. So obviously, SCOM itself is running the task, and here we have the output, which I can copy to clipboard and do what I want with. And that's it, really. It's a relatively simpler feature. As with every place in Dashboard Server where SCOM tasks kind of feature, and we can add override parameters as you would expect. No changes to how that kind of stuff works. Some other places in Dashboard Server just works as you would expect, really, which is cool. One word of sort of warning, I guess, is if the objects selected are in fact the group, you'll get the list of tasks relevant for the group object and not for the children of the group. But it otherwise works exactly as you might expect. Hopefully, this will be useful for you for that kind of reporting use case, as well as the whole fewer clicks point, which is really cool. Moving back to slides to move on to our next feature, which is another customer request, which is some changes to the SCOM Task tile. Now, I don't think this has changed since I've been working on Dashboard Server, which is quite some time now, measured in years, this tile. And that is the ability to apply a custom refresh to the tile. Now, the use case here is essentially, I've got a dashboard that's filled with tons and tons of these SCOM Task tiles. And by default, historically, we only had, there was no configurable for this, but we had the default dashboard refresh. So in other words, the tiles would all run SCOM tasks when the dashboard refreshed. And if all those SCOM task tiles were hitting the same servers, for example, you're going to put an increased load on the same servers at the same point of time. Also, there are definitely cases where you need data more quickly than the dashboard refresh interval, where things change more frequently. And the inverse is true as well, where you don't need it as quickly as the dashboard might refresh. You could save yourself some SCOM tasks. Well, it's now possible to set a custom interval separate from the dashboard interval. And we're going to see that in action now. If I go back into Dashboard Server and go to my Showcase dashboard over here and scroll down, let's see and edit quickly first. So we have 2 SCOM task tiles already set up here. If I go into the edit for these and go through the options, you'll see this one is scoped to a single monitored object, one single, what is this? This is the SQL Server from the looks of things, the SQL Server object itself. I've got the get SQL Server connections via Windows auth task run to see the quantity essentially. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Then as far as the format is concerned, nothing to see here. We can customize our columns as you would expect. And then we have our grid options here. We have the, where is the Interval, there it is. I skipped right past it without even noticing. I thought it was on a separate tab for a second, but there it is, where the SCOM, the task itself is selected. So here I've got this one set to 10 minutes as opposed to dashboard refresh. If I change it, it doesn't automatically fire off these changes, which is also important. We've all seen products that constantly fire off requests when you're configuring them, and it's super annoying. This one is set to 10 minutes, and there isn't this. It's quite hard to demonstrate, really. This one over here is set to 180 minutes. It really, really is, trust me. There it is, 180 minutes. And all you can really see is the total number of connections between the two is different. And that's because this is a real database that's being used in real life. So that number of connections will go up and down. So all there really is to see here is the fact the numbers are different, but that's an important feature for multiple SCOM tasks on a single dashboard, which is a use case a number of our customers do have. Back to slides now. The default, this is worth pointing out, actually, I should have said this earlier. By default, the dashboard refresh is every minute. So that is potentially quite aggressive as well. Especially given the notion of what SCOM tasks are usually used for. And then I've just screenshotted what I've just shown you in real time, so that's cool, nothing different to see or highlight here. Next thing to show then is the ability to add tiles to the top of columns. Now this is really difficult to kind of pick out to the untrained eye kind of thing. When my team was showing me this feature, I kind of went, what am I looking for here? Like, do you see anything different? And I did eventually spot it. In the after state, as with the bottom of the tile, you have this option to add a tile above rather than just below existing tiles, which is super, super useful. If I go back to the product to illustrate kind of why, this dashboard is still in edit mode. If I have a large bunch of tiles, I've always been able to add at the bottom. But to be able to add at the top is potentially quite useful because it might save me a whole bunch of scrolling. And obviously it works exactly as you would expect, as it does with adding a tile at the bottom. So I can add tiles at the top now, hooray. It's a relatively simple, but one of those nice quality of life features. It should save you some time in scrolling around dashboards. So there we go. And I've shown you everything there is to see now. So all there really is to do is to say Dashboard Server 6.4 is available in release candidate today. So do go and get it at download.squaredup.com. It's available for all the editions of Dashboard Server, Teams, EAM, and EAMX. And as always, in-place upgrade is recommended. And if you do upgrade, you'll get priority support if you find any issues before general availability, which is essentially 2 weeks from today. So do go and check it out. And if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. If you find any issues, please do let support have them. So all that's left to do really is turn the floor over to Q&A. I can see there are some questions coming in. What have we got? It would be really cool if broadcast was enabled to be added, dismissed, removed, or configured via API. Ooh, interesting use case. Why? I can think of some off the top of my head, but I'd be interested to hear, Scott, what your use cases are for using broadcast via API. So if you could type that, I'd be very appreciative. And then Stefan asks, can you please quickly show how to put a server into maintenance mode? Include contained objects, default now. Sure, I can. So let me just show you how that works. This is a 6.3 feature. I just need a list of servers, essentially. I'm sure I'll do a better demo of this in the 6.3 release webinar, but nonetheless, let's see what this looks like. So these are 35, I think it was, VMs. You can see some are already in maintenance mode, some are off. And I have my maintenance mode button at the top. And when I click it, I can see both the schedules and those objects currently in maintenance mode. So if I want to put something in maintenance mode as of now, as opposed to a schedule, I would click new here. Again, that scope is pulled through. It's the same 35. This was actually a change to check include contained objects by default. This was a change you made in 6.4 from 6.3. And this is to mirror effectively the behavior of the SCOM console. Small but simple kind of quality of life thing again. And then obviously you can put them into maintenance mode, and all of the options are what you'd expect to see here as per effectively the SCOM console. Schedules are also possible. I'm just going to cheat and edit an existing one quickly. So the frequency are, options there are exactly as you would expect: once daily, weekly, monthly, etc. It's all very intuitive and simple to use. But this was like a massive pain point for SCOM administrators. So a 6.3 feature, but always happy to show this because I think this is a big deal for SCOM administrators. Oh, I've also got enable, disable, and delete at the bottom of schedules. So if you want to have a schedule that is present but not enabled, you can go and disable it. That is also possible. Hopefully that answers that question, Stefan, but if not, please feel free to put follow-up comments in the chat and I can answer them. Let's see if there are any other questions. Scott has asked on the broadcast via API, a major incident is proposed or accepted in our ServiceNow environment, typically indicating a pretty big deal. The ability to push, it's jumped in my list of questions, hang on. The ability to push that as a broadcast would be nice. Yeah, that's a cool use case. Thank you. I will see how easy that is to do. I'll take that back to the team. Thank you for that. Marcus just saying it's good to see the defaults have changed for scheduled maintenance mode. Yeah, that's one of those things we didn't even think about when we released it in 6.3, but obviously defaults that match what you guys are used to makes so much more sense. Let's see if there are any other questions or comments. I'm seeing silence, which is indicative of no more questions. Well, that's everything I had to show. So all that's left to say is please do go and download Dashboard Server 6.4. In general, if you have any feedback on Dashboard Server, on 6.4 or otherwise, we'd love to hear it either via support or you can find me directly. I'm easy enough to find on what's it called, social media and whatnot, LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear your feedback. I'm always interested in, you can see from what we productize that what we productize comes from you guys. The question is this a virtual background of my house? This is my actual house, as the plotter at the side will show you. My wife brought Christmas at home before the 1st of December, which is cool. Unexpected, but there we are. All right, are there any final questions? Nope. All right, so all that's left to do is to say thank you very much for coming and for attending. Hopefully the features in this release are as useful to you as I think they will be. Until next time, thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. Goodbye all.